Are you comfortable? You ready to start this Wizard of Oz thing? Are you ready? Because I'm ready if you're ready.
You're going to see a wizard?
Let's do this. One of the things about being a human is figuring ourselves out. That's kind of the whole jam, like what we're supposed to be doing. Figuring out what we are, who we are, how we think, how we feel, all this stuff. And so what I've done is looked at the Wizard of Oz, and I've determined that there are 7 characters that are really aligned with the 7 planets. In this video, we're going to be talking about your capacity to think and to learn and to reason and to speak and how you perceive the world. But not only that, how you communicate yourself back to the world through the planet of Mercury. And for the Wizard of Oz, we're going to use the character of the deer scarecrow. Now, the scarecrow in the Wizard of Oz, the scarecrow is pretty great. But the scarecrow in the Wizard of Oz had one problem, and he was convinced that he had no brain, and because he had no brain, that he was completely worthless. He even says that in his song, the end of his song that he sings, he says, "I would not be just a nuffin, my head all full of stuffin', my heart all full of pain, and perhaps I'd deserve you and be even worthy of you if I only had a brain." So Dorothy, feels kind of bad for him because he doesn't have a brain, the brainless dude.
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
Do? Why, if I had a brain, I could...
So Dorothy says, I'm going to the wizard. I'm going to try to get home, trying to get the heck out of here. And if the wizard can help me get home, well, maybe he can help you get a brain. So let's go together.
Won't you take me with you?
Why, of course I will.
Hooray!
So they pair up. They're the first 2 that come together. And throughout the journey to meet the wizard, the scarecrow is the one who has all the great ideas. He displays innovative thinking. He's really wise. And he doesn't have a brain. And he keeps reminding everybody that, well, maybe this idea is not so good because I don't have a brain, but here's an amazing idea. So they finally make it to the wizard after all their trials and tribulations and stuff. And they have already revealed that the wizard is not even a powerful wizard of all. He's not even a powerful wizard of all. He's just like a dude. And even though that happens, the wizard decides he's going to give the scarecrow a brain, which is a PhD in thinkology.
I hereby confer upon you the honorary degree of THD. PhD? That's Doctor of Thinkology.
And just because he gets this PhD in thinkology, a little piece of paper, the scarecrow all of a sudden is validated, and this is what makes him get over his whole brain complex problem. He has, he does some E equals MC squared, I don't know what he does, Pythagorean theorem or something like that.
Sum of the square roots of any 2 sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the remaining side. Oh, joy, rapture! I've got a brain!
So anyway, it's kind of ridiculous that basically he needed that validation just to be what he already was. Okay. So the Mercury shadow lesson that's embodied by the scarecrow is a struggle with independent thinking or distrusting our inherent wisdom, our intuition, not really listening to what the brain is telling us and going with something else, second guessing ourselves, or having a dependence on external validation or points of validation for our self-worth. Having somebody agree with us. So we can look at the natal Mercury placement to fully embrace and understand our unique style of thinking and communicating. And that's Mercury, the messenger, which facilitates that inflow of information, but also the external flow, the outflow of expression in various forms. All forms of communication is Mercury. This book, Horoscope Symbols by Robert Hand, I really like it. In this book, he says, Mercury signifies the power to overcome the gap that exists between separate entities. The world, as seen in normal human consciousness, is a world of divisions. The first of these divisions is between subject and object, the I and the thou. 2 different things. So I cannot experience what you experience, and you cannot experience what I experience. We can never fully occupy another's point of view, yet we are not wholly cut off from it. We can communicate, and communication is one of the chief mercurial functions. That's what Robert Hand says. So the question is, how do you communicate, and how do you comprehend the communication of other people? That's your Mercury. When we spend some time becoming familiar with how we think and how we communicate, we're getting an empowerment. We're empowering ourselves. And we can see that other people also have modes of comprehension that might be different, modes of communication that might be different. It's a different filter. So that's one of the reasons we can get along really, really well with some people, like easy, no problem. Communication, so clear. And there are others that it's really challenging to understand or communicate with them. So that has to do with synastry and aspects and compatibility of signs, different Mercury signs and other signs and planets too. And just generally the facility or the difficulty that you have with these Mercury filters interacting. And neither one is right or wrong. Both expressions just are. One thing Ren Butler says is that Mercury also represents the universal mind's enjoyment of the incredibly diverse forms of communication amongst the world's living things. So that basically is indicating that diversity of thinking is critical. Different modes of thinking, very important. Why? Why is it important? Because they make up this vast expanse of potentiality of awareness in the world. There's multiple ways to think, multiple ways to communicate, and we're not going to like all of them, and not everybody's going to like the way we communicate, but there will be matches. Your Mercury can be in any one of the 12 zodiac signs, but because it's so close to the sun, it never gets too far away in this revolution from your sun sign. So it's going to be either aligned with your sun sign, exactly the same, or it might be in one of the responses, either the one before or the one after your sun sign. So that's pretty much the only options. So when we get into that, we can see there's a nuance, further nuance to understand your analysis of your astrology. If you don't know where your Mercury is, you can take just a second, a minute. I mean, it doesn't take much time. Go to astro.com or AstroSeek and just put in your birthday. If you don't even know your time, that's okay. Just your date will get you really close and your location where you were born. And just pull it up, easy, it's free. That can tell you where your Mercury lies. If you know your birth time, then you're going to get your ascendant and the houses, and that gives you a whole nother layer of analysis to get into. But anyway, one way to broadly analyze your Mercury is to go by element. Now, we'll do that here because otherwise you're going to have to sit through 12 different signs. But we're just going to go from level 1, which is if you have a fire, earth, air, or water. Those are the big categories. If your Mercury is in a fire sign, that's going to be Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. That's a fire mind. A fire-powered mind is one of creativity and warmth and daring and spontaneity. It's inspirational. It represents the identity principle of the active life force. So it's very, very strong, very powerful. Thoughts and ideas take shape through hopes for the future and philosophical perspectives, especially if it's Sagittarius. Personal hopes and beliefs, that's kind of Leo. Effective learning involves understanding abstract concepts and grasping the bigger picture or making decisive actions. So you can kind of see that those are kind of lining up with the Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius concepts, right? So if your Mercury is in an earth sign, that's going to be a Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn Mercury. Now, an earthy mind is one that relies on a sense of realism, structure, sensuality, understanding the senses, endurance, productivity, and dependability. Those are just a few keywords. And the main thing that Earth is representing the material principle. So that's giving substance to creation. And the optimal way of learning is very 5 senses: visual, auditory, tactile, kinesthetic, olfactory. The filter for an Earth mind is grounded and sensory focused, but it also emphasizes tangible aspects. That's the material world, is Earth. So the communication is more persistent and specific, maybe sometimes cautious. Thought processes are influenced by practical realities and traditional material concerns. This is just one element, right, talking about. This is just one part of us we're talking about. This is just the mind, right? Just the mind filter, because all the other planets are going to be doing different things. So just keep this in mind. Okay. If your Mercury is in an air sign, that's going to be a Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius Mercury. An air mind is intellectual. It's communicative, objective, clever, observant, versatile. So the mental principle, thoughts for thought's sake, just thinking is very important to air signs. Thinking about different things for different air signs, but definitely it's all about the mind and ideas. So an optimal learning way for an air Mercury is collecting information about various ideals or social dynamics or environmental situations. And the filtering process is rooted in curiosity and adaptability. Communication can be versatile, socially adept, articulate, innovative, objective. Just a passion for sharing ideas, usually with an air Mercury. Now, if your Mercury is in a water sign, that's Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. A water mind is typically very compassionate and interested in bonding, flowing, healing. It's a sensitive, more sensitive, empathetic, deep, sometimes even mysterious, the way the mind works. And it represents the feeling principle that is also relating to this powerful unconscious force that motivates us. So very intuitive. The intuitive mind is going to be mostly a water mind. Deeply felt sentiments, nostalgia, important. Learning is best through creativity, intuition, sensitivity. And the filter that this water Mercury has is a longing for heartfelt connections, like deep connections. Communications expressive, empathetic, intuitive, perceptive. So you can see that even within the elemental structure of earth, air, fire, and water, there are 3 different signs within that, and each one of those 3, they have some continuity because they are the same element, but they are totally different as well in their own way. So that's just level 1 of this Russian doll journey to understanding your mind. And there's so many other considerations because your Mercury is going to be unique. It's going to be unique to you. What sign is it in? That's level 1. What aspects is it making to other planets? What house is it in? Does it rule your ascendant, your sun, or your moon? So we could go really deep just to figure out this one planet. And so that's kind of why I wanted to give you a few tools to start understanding your own Mercury, because even within a natal chart reading, like if you get a chart reading with an astrologer, it's typically about an hour. And there's definitely not this level of going deep into just one planet, one planetary placement, unless you ask for it. So it's nice to take some initiative to dive into yourself, explore your landscape, explore your territory, planet by planet. Mercury is only one of those beautiful archetypes that are playing around in the pantheon of your code. So engaging with the inner exploration of each part of your natal promise is the road to self-acceptance and compassion. It's the wizard that's you. And it unveils the inherent beauty and a worthiness in you to accept yourself as you are, precisely as you're designed to be. It's all already in you, and you just have to take the time to understand and acknowledge and accept who you are and what you are. And you don't need an honorary PhD in thinkology. There's just one more thing I wanted to share with you from this horoscope symbols book about Mercury by Robert Hand. He says, on the highest level, Mercury is associated with the logos, or the word, the aspect of divinity in which the will of God is translated to the particular forms and structures of the created universe. Occultists have always considered the physical universe itself to be nothing more than a set of signs or a map corresponding to the divine nature. All knowledge and wisdom comes through Logos, whose planetary symbol is Mercury. Thus, as long as the process of knowing is recognized to be less important than which it is to be known, Mercury is one of the highest symbols of all. So that's why at the end of The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy says, I'm going to miss you most of all. Because the scarecrow represents her mind and how far away she is actually from making her own decisions or her own awareness. The awareness that she has only comes through experience. And the further she gets towards her own experience, the less she needs those crutches, those avatars, right? The scarecrow is just an avatar for Dorothy. And it's her insecurity for making her own decisions, for doing what she wants to do. I think that makes sense. I don't know. I hope this was helpful for you. You know I like you just the way you are. And if you need it, I am giving you a PhD in thinkology. Think for yourself. Discover your own Mercury. Be you. And that's the most beautiful thing in the entire world. I'll talk to you next time. Play a song about the brain on Spotify.
Okay, Love on the Brain by Rihanna, playing on Spotify.